This video is going to cover just some of the basics about rational numbers, their classifications, how to compare them and such. We're going to start with what are whole numbers. When you first learn to count, we start with numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. And then we include a number called 0, and these are referred to as whole numbers. And then at some point we tell you, well, there's some other numbers called negatives. So these would be the opposites of whole numbers, like -1, -2, -3, and so forth. And then this makes up a set of numbers called integers. And inside these integers and whole numbers, you'll notice there are no decimals, there are no fractions. Then we have some other numbers outside of these two groups, which would involve fractions, like 3/4, or decimals like 0.125. I could have some negatives out here too. Let's say -2 2/3. And this group of numbers has a name, and it's referred to as rational numbers. And as of right now, rational numbers, integers, and whole numbers are going to make up our real number system. These are all called real numbers. And we'll talk about some irrational numbers later on. Go in a little bit more detail about a rational number. A rational number is any number that can be written in the form of A over B, in which A and B have to be integer values, and B cannot equal 0. So any number that cannot be written in that form is not considered a rational number. If you were to take a rational number, let's say 3/4, and convert it to its decimal form, one of the easiest ways to figure out if it's a rational is to look at its decimal form, and we get a 0.75, and that's where the number stops dividing out. So we call that a terminating decimal. And all terminating decimals are considered rational numbers because they can be written in this form. Other types would be repeating decimals, like 1/3, which would give us 0.333 and repeating. So any number that repeats or terminates in its decimal form is considered a rational number. And can be written in the form of A over B, in which A and B are both integers and B cannot equal 0. We can order or we can compare these numbers just simply by looking at a number line. And anything on a number line that goes to the right or further to the right would be a bigger number. So for example, if this is, let's say, 1, 2, 3, the number 3 is bigger than the number 1 because it's further to the right on the number line. If we were to compare the number 3 to, let's say, -1, most people know that that is smaller than 3. All negatives are smaller than positives. However, some difficulty comes into play when we look at negative compared to negative. So if we're looking at, let's say, -2 and -1 on a number line, the bigger value is always going to be to the right. So in this case, -1 is actually bigger than -2. So if you're having difficulty determining which number is bigger, all you have to do is imagine where they would lie on a number line.